Story. Chapter 10 Disapproval. Todoroki and Momo made their way to her home. They held their hands together as they walked. Both of them just had their first date today. They were already official, but they didn't confirm it to public but only to themselves. After a few minutes, the two finally reached her house as they stood in front of the front door. "Good night," he said, in a quiet voice, to make sure that her parents won't hear them. Momo smiled, shyly, with a blush flashed on her cheeks. "Good night." Todoroki slowly placed one of his warm palms on her cold cheeks. His face drew closer to hers. He whispered, "See, can we kiss?" The girl pouted with her brows furrowed. "Not yet, we have to do it at the right time." Todoroki whined like a baby. "But this feels like the right time." Momo let out a chuckle. She wasn't ready to kiss yet. It's not only just because she doesn't know how to, but it will cause the kiss to be sloppy and awkward in the end. She needed to learn about it first before the actual moment. So she came closer and only gave a small peck. Todoroki widened his eyes, taken aback from what happened. He didn't expect her to go first. But he finally felt her soft, plump lips on his, and he was already amazed with the feeling with such a small touch. He then grabbed her nape to push her head closer, completely drawn to that short kiss just now, and wanted a longer one, but Momo swiftly covered his mouth, preventing his lips to touch hers. Her hand being a barrier between the kiss. He showed his half-closed eyes, in disappointment. "Why?" he complained in her palms. Momo chuckled again with his cute childish attitude. She can't help but fall in love with him more. But then the two were interrupted with the front door, opened, next to them. There appeared Momo's father, with a furious look at the both of them. Momo quickly let go of Todoroki and the guy stepped back away from Momo. Their hearts were both racing and they were frightened and worried. They were caught. "You, father, Before she could finish, he harshly grabbed Momo's wrist, clenching it tighter and tighter, making Momo wince in pain. "Shut up," he said in a lowly voice with anger in his tone. Hey, Todoroki shouted as he ran towards them and grabbed the father's wrist, attempting to release it from Momo's. "You're hurting her. Why, you?" He growled, and punched Todoroki hard on the cheeks. Todoroki fell right down on the ground. "Todoroki," Momo called out, with a concerned look. "Stay away from my daughter." He shouted even louder. He continued to hold onto Momo's wrist, already crushing it. A tear came out of her eye as the pain began to grow. Todoroki gritted his teeth in anger, with the scene his seeing. "You bastard," he shouted as he pushed the dad away from Momo, letting go of her now bruised wrist. The dad fall back on the front door as Todoroki punched him back. "Todoroki, don't," Momo cried, holding Todoroki's arm, ready to punch the old man again. The dad stood up, weakly. "You want me to report this?" he screamed to Todoroki. "Sure, I'm fine with it, but just don't ever hurt Yaoyaozu like that." His eyes look like it's already flared with anger. "Todoroki, please," she whined, crying softly, tightened her hug on his arm. He then slowly calmed down and looked on the ground. His breathing was finally controlled. "Please, trip to Italy, sponsored by Ida Airways. The Italy you are searching for, before you even touch the ground. Fly nonstop Miami, Rome. Read more. Promoted stories. You'll also like Key Holder Boku no Hero Academia fanfic. 2672. First, there was ice. Pain followed. This is how it has always been. But when you're hurt and alone, will anyone come to help, despite all your missteps? Fumiko Hanab. The Support General Course. Quirkless. Deck. 40.8k 1.3k. Izuku got into UA, just not the hero course. Taking both support and general classes, Izuku aims to graduate from UA after giving up on his hero dreams. Quirkless is the 1 tilde Todoroki X reader, check mark. 772k 22.5k and quad. It's just, and quad. Her eyes were brimming with tears. No, please don't cry, I silently begged, I can't stand to see you hurt. And quad, I don't want to see any of. Echoes of obsession, Yandere BNHAX female R. 15.1k 507. You, the reader, find yourself into the prestigious halls of UA High School, surrounded by a group of aspiring heroes who harbor an unsettling obsession with you. From Look at Me, Bakugo X Reader. 330k 9.8k. You spent your childhood defending your best friend, Izuku, claiming that one day the two of you will be a pro-hero duo, not caring that your friend is quirkless. While something unforeseen. Completed. 14k383. Izuku Midoriya is a young high schooler who oftentimes keeps to himself, and he enjoys this tranquil lifestyle. He enjoys comic books and keeps his grades up and is your I Hate and Love You. 249k 4.6k. An Izwocha fanfiction where Deku and Uraraka had a fight in kindergarten which led to something worse. But maybe they can be friends or perhaps more. Non-Quirko rated. The dad, after that, snatched Momo back from Todoroki and pulled her in the house and shut the door, loudly. Todoroki, she said before the door closed. Todoroki stayed in his position, looking down. The words she said and the face she made, he couldn't fight back because of that. His legs gave away as he collapsed on the ground. Shit, he cursed to himself. Thinking about what will happen to Momo inside, makes his blood boil and his worries rise. He couldn't help it, he can't imagine it, he doesn't want to, the pain in his heart was unbearable. Seeing the sight of her in pain and tears, he just couldn't control himself. There, he rushed to the front door and knocked, punched, kicked and pushed it as hard as he could. Yaoyaruzu, he shouted, continuing his actions, not caring about the blood and bruises appearing in his arms and hands due to the impact he's making. But still, there was no response. Yaoyaruzu, he screamed even louder, making his voice weak as he was about to cry already. Yaoyaruzu. On the other hand, both Izuku and Kirishima both had yet another partner meeting for the project in the Green Hair Boy's house and Mina came along as well. About an hour after they left, Kaminari came downstairs to take over the television. Hey, Midoriya, what? He replied, grabbing a snack from the cabinet in the kitchen. Kaminari laid down on the sofa. Why is Ashido-san coming here as well? He asked him. She's Siro's partner, am I right? Izuku flinched, almost telling him the reason why she's visiting only when Kirishima visits. Kirishima and Ashido-san are just close. He then opened the bag of snacks. Kaminari raised an eyebrow, confused with that answer. I see. Izuku then went over to Kaminari, sitting on the other sofa. Kaminari signaled him to pass him the bag to take some chips. Izuku then gave it to him, focusing on the television next. That's weird, you're not gonna read or anything? Asked the yellow hair boy, returning the bag of chips to Izuku. Izuku shrugged. I don't feel like it today. Kaminari widened his eyes a bit. Whoa, is this the Midoriya Izuku I know? Just for today, anyway, there was no school today. He then took a chip and ate it. Kaminari lips formed a line and nodded. Also, I have to go to Jiro's house tomorrow for the prohei. The sound of Izuku's ringtone played, cutting Kaminari off. Sorry, hold on. Izuku grabbed his cell phone as he checked the ID name. Yaoyaruzu-san, he read out, answering the call. Hello, Midoriya-kun, she replied. Please help me. Izuku was a bit taken aback with the tone of her voice and his eyes looked worried. What happened? Todoroki. It's Todoroki. He's having a fight with my dad outside and please stop him. He can't stop, she told him, through her cries. Todoroki. Izuku stood up. He's what? Momo couldn't control her cries as she was staring at the scene of her father and Todoroki hurting each other, from her bedroom window. Midoriya-kun, please, my dad will bring him to the police if this continues, please help him. Izuku kept silent for a while, still processing with the situation with Kaminari staring at Izuku on the phone, also concerned. Alright, I'm coming. She's getting married. You cannot have her. The dad grabbed the collar of Todoroki as the boy stared at her dad with irritation. Cut it with that marriage crap. Do you know that you're forcing your daughter to do something she doesn't want? He shouted back at him. Do you think she'll actually love you that? You're shit. I'm calling the cops, he threatened Todoroki, tightening his grip on his collar, making him on his toes already. Todoroki breathed in and out heavily. Asshole, you're an idiot. Before the dad could do anything after that, Izuku came in time to stop the situation along with Kaminari. Todoroki. The other boy looked over to Izuku, going towards him. Midoriya, he breathed out. Sorry, mister, for Todoroki's behavior. Please excuse him for today for he will never do it again. Izuku bowed down, 90 degrees. This guy is responsible with my bruises now and do you think I'll let this slip off? He raised his voice, making Izuku squeaked. Kaminari talked. We're really sorry, but, trust us, we promise to never let Todoroki interfere with you and your family in the marriage of Yaoyorozu. Todoroki bulged his eyes and looked at Kaminari, shocked. Why you told me? Kaminari gave a stare with the dad as he was thinking of Kaminari's words. Never let this guy come near my daughter. If I found out he is still with her, you three are going straight to the cops. Kaminari and Izuku gulped in fright as they nodded. Now leave, he told, closing the door shut. The three stood there quietly, breathing heavy breaths. Kaminari, Todoroki called. Why did you say that? Kaminari kept silent and gazed at Todoroki, placing his hand on his shoulder. You did great, but let's stop that for today, before it will get worse. What do you mean? You shouldn't talk to him like that, it's only to make him hate you more, he said, making Todoroki reflect his mistakes, as he looked down admitting it was his fault. Don't listen to that dude as well, of course, still be with Yaoyorozu, he continued, patting the guy's back. Just wait for the right time to talk things out with him. Izuku nodded and grabbed Todoroki's arm and wrapping it behind his own neck, giving support to him. Now, come on, you look like a mess, time to get you home, big guy. Kaminari did the same with the other. Yeah, you need some rest. Todoroki then started walking with them, slowly, enduring his injuries stinging all over his body. He let out a small smile. Thanks, guys, it was another school day today. Unfortunately, Todoroki didn't attend school that day, still healing and taking his rest at home. But for Momo, she too was absent but Izuku didn't know why. He didn't get any more news from her. After Izuku placed his shoes in the locker, he then went to class. But then, once again, a hand grabbed a hold of his back collar, dragging Izuku somewhere and it's starting to make him choke. Hey, he coughed with the collar pushing his neck. What are you doing? The hand then let go of him, and Izuku fell on his knees, coughing harshly. He then looked up, to see him again. The devil, Bakugo. Staring at Izuku with furious, flared-looking eyes. Izuku gulped with the look he had but then he received a hard kick on his shoulders, making him fall back. He winced in pain. Bakugo, He whimpered, but Bakugo placed his foot on his stomach, pushing him down hard on the ground, letting him have the urge to puke. Izuku groaned and started to tear up. I heard you were at Ochako's place when she was sick. That made Bakugo more mad, crushing Izuku's stomach even harder. Izuku could barely speak. I'm so sorry, he squeaked. What did I tell you about getting close to her? He let go of his foot and grabbed on his collar. Are you stupid? He screamed in his face. Izuku kept quiet, too scared of this guy already. He couldn't think of other ways to do or to say to him, but just kept quiet. Stay away from her, he said, with his eyes looking angry, yet sad. Izuku was taken aback with his reaction. Just fucking stay away from her. God damn it. He gritted his teeth, taking heavy breaths insanely. If you get too close to her like that night, I swear I'll rip your face off. Izuku squeaked once again as Bakugo lifted him higher. By pulling his collar up, you got that? He said lastly before throwing back on the ground, cruelly. Izuku arched his back in pain of the hard landing. He then watched Bakugo left the area, leaving Izuku with his now dirty green vest and dirt on his face. Izuku then placed his forearm on top of his eyes to cover it and started whimpering. Those whimpers then turned into a sob. Why is this happening to me? He continued to cry even louder, laying down on the ground, alone, weeping like a baby. I'm such a loser. Izuku removed his green vest and stuffed it in his bag. He washed his face and made it to class. He saw Ochako, on her seat, reading a novel. He then looked away and sat next to her. Good morning, Deku-kun Tilda. She greeted him with a cute smirk with the cute name she called him. But her joyful smile faded with no response from Izuku but him with a depressed down look. Deku-kun. Izuku still kept quiet, doing his usual routine. Taking his books out of his bag and placing it on the table, Ochako leaned forward to see Izuku's face. Are you okay? The green-haired boy avoided her eyes and just focused on his books. His thoughts just cramming in his head, on how to face her. Yet, none of them came out to be the right thing to do for Izuku. Deku-kun, are you sick? Are you tired? What time did you sleep? Is something bothering you? Can I help? The girl just kept asking and asking until Izuku spoke. Can you not talk to me? Shit. Ochako was taken aback with his words. She slowly and hesitantly moved back to her chair. Her eyes were looking confused as ever. She didn't know what to say next due to the unexpected words that came out of Izuku's mouth. Sorry, she apologized, as she get her own books out of her bag, and left Izuku there. Izuku gritted his teeth, hiding his face with his bangs. He couldn't help but to hold in all his tears inside and the pain increasing. Sorry, Uraraka-san. Ochako felt worried for Izuku. Every day, she noticed that he's acting more and more different than his usual self before. She thought it was just her, but now she feels hesitant to approach him. She doesn't know why she's feeling this way, but all she knows is that she doesn't want that to happen. But then she was right. It's been 2 weeks since Izuku stopped talking to her frequently. He only did if she ever asked for any questions in class. She never have a small chat with him in the windows anymore, and both never had one single tutoring as well. All these 2 weeks, they never said a single word to each other. Ochako already noticed this, but she knew that it wasn't her business on why Izuku was feeling so down every day. But he did have a great time with Iida and the others. But why just her? Why does it look like he's avoiding her? She doesn't ever want to think that way, but his actions were so clear and obvious. She really wanted to ask what's wrong, but he usually changed the subject and leave after that, or either just leave her alone only. All those has made her slightly depressed and upset. She thought it was because of her everyday, but she wasn't so sure about it. She never had any long and normal conversation with him anymore, and sitting next to each other isn't helping. All she did was ignore those negative thoughts in her head and let everything slip off as if nothing happened. She tried to get closer back to Izuku as much as possible to make sure what's wrong. She needs to know why is he avoiding her. Ah. This chapter was short for me because it took me long to update. But hey, at least it's better late than never. Okay, so let me just say this. Thank you to every one of you who's reading this and voting. Heart, you all are amazing and super support, and no words can explain how thankful am I for that. And also I love your comments. Heart, it really made my day with a good laugh smiley face. I actually didn't expect this to happen. I just wrote it for fun, but since it's getting a lot of reads, it surely made me happy and more into writing this. You guys really motivate me, and I swear I'll not disappoint you guys with this story. You guys are best. Love you all, heart, 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 heart. Where stories live. Discover now.